The safe door hung open like a mouth caught mid-confession. No pry marks showed on the steel, not even a fresh scratch. The keypad face was intact, glossy and smug under fluorescent light. The lock cylinder sat perfectly aligned, as if nobody touched it. Inside, velvet trays were empty, and paperwork lay neatly stacked. Even the audit log was clean, like it had been washed, not wiped badly, not glitched, but politely blank. A guard kept repeating one sentence, louder each time. "Door open by itself, man." I swear on my job. That sounded like panic, until the evidence started agreeing. The hinges weren't forced, and the bolts weren't sheared. Whoever did this didn't fight the safe. They persuaded it. And the most terrifying part was how normal everything looked. A crime scene that could pass as Monday morning, like the building itself had decided to cooperate, like the safe had heard something and listened. Detective Maria stepped under the crime scene tape with tired eyes. She had 24 hours before the insurance adjusters arrived. Once they declared total loss, the evidence would scatter into paperwork, and the stolen items would become numbers, not targets. She didn't call a locksmith. She called Aaron. Aaron was an acoustic engineer who tuned concert halls for orchestras. He measured how walls breathe when bass hits them. He once redesigned a stadium because applause caused metal fatigue. If something moved without hands, Aaron wanted to know why. Maria trusted him because he hated magic explanations. He believed every mystery was a bad measurement waiting correction. When he arrived, he carried microphones instead of tools and a laptop covered in faded festival stickers. He walked around the safe slowly, listening more than looking. He tapped the steel lightly with his knuckle. Then he asked for silence in the room. Complete silence, like a library before finals week. He placed a small sensor against the safe door. Another went on the drywall across the room. A third near the ceiling grid. Maria raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Safes don't open themselves," Aaron said calmly, "but mechanisms can be convinced." He asked about events held in this building last night. Corporate gala, live band, rented sound system, temporary stage. Maria felt her stomach tighten. A stage meant speakers. Speakers meant vibration. And vibration meant physics had been invited to the party. The stolen items were not random valuables. One rare watch, one antique coin, one prototype microchip. Everything else remained untouched, almost respectfully ignored. That wasn't smash and grab. That was selective. If they failed to recover those objects quickly, insurance lawyers would freeze everything. Subpoenas would follow. The building owner would blame the security firm, and Maria's case would drown in corporate crossfire. Aaron finally looked at her with quiet excitement. "I don't think the safe was picked," he said. "I think it was sung to." Maria didn't smile, but she stopped doubting him. Aaron didn't start with a safe. He started with a drinking glass from the break room. It was cheap, cloudy, and completely unimpressive. He set it on a folding table near the open vault. Then he pulled out a small speaker, the size of a lunchbox. Maria frowned like she was watching a street magician. "This is not a trick," Aaron said, reading her face. "It's resonance, and it's brutally honest." He asked a tech to bring a tone generator app. Any phone could do it, which made Maria uneasy. He connected the phone to the speaker with a cable. He kept the volume low, almost polite. A single note filled the room, thin and steady. Aaron slowly slid the frequency upward, like turning a dial on history. Most pitches did nothing, just annoying air. Then the glass began to shimmer slightly, not moving, not falling, but trembling with tiny ripples. Maria leaned closer and saw the waterline quiver. Aaron held up one finger, warning her to wait. He nudged the frequency a little more. The trembling strengthened, as if the glass had found its favorite song. Now the sound and the glass were cooperating. The vibrations stacked on themselves instead of canceling out. "That's resonance," Aaron said quietly. "Energy builds because the timing matches the object's natural frequency." Maria asked why the glass didn't shake at every sound. Aaron pointed at the ceiling and the walls. "Most noise is messy," he said. "It hits at random times, so the pushes don't line up." He lowered the volume, then raised it slowly again. The glass vibrated harder, even though the speaker barely changed. That made the lesson feel unfair, like a loophole in reality. "Same input, different frequency," Aaron explained. "Frequency decides whether the energy sinks or accumulates." He stopped the tone, and the glass settled instantly. No drama, no aftermath, just physics turning off. Maria stared at the safe door again, more suspicious now. Aaron walked her to the lock housing on the safe edge. He pointed at a small metal latch inside the mechanism. "Many safes rely on a tiny part staying seated," he said. "A detent, a spring, a lever, a pin." He mimed a latch slipping with 2 fingers. "If vibration shakes that part just right, it can unseat." he said. It's like shaking a stuck drawer until the catch releases. Maria asked if sound could really do that. Aaron nodded, but he didn't oversell it. Sound is pressure waves, he said. Pressure waves are tiny forces, repeated many times. He tapped the safe again, listening for its ring. Repeat the right force at the right timing, he continued, and you can loosen things without prying or drilling. Maria thought about the clean logs and intact lock. A forced entry would leave scars. Resonance would leave nothing but a bad memory. Aaron smiled once, quick and grim. The scary part, he said, is it can look like luck. But resonance is not luck. It's consistency wearing an invisible suit. Maria hated how easy the explanation sounded in her head. Someone played a note, and the safe gave up, she said. Even she heard the science fiction in her voice. Aaron didn't argue. He just asked for the event floor plan. He also wanted the stage plot and audio equipment list. That request made the building manager blink twice. The manager said the contractor handled everything. Lights, sound, staging, teardown, all bundled. Maria asked for the contractor's name and insurance certificate. The manager suddenly remembered he had another meeting. Aaron crouched near the baseboard by the safe room wall. He ran a flashlight along the paint seam. Something shiny caught the beam near an outlet plate. A fresh scuff, like rubber, had kissed the wall repeatedly. He removed the outlet plate carefully with a gloved hand. Inside, the drywall edge was dusted with black grit. Not soot, not mold, but rubbery abrasion. Maria pictured a speaker cabinet rocking during bass hits. Aaron pointed at the mark and didn't smile. Portable subwoofer feet, he said, almost apologetically. Maria asked how he could be sure. He showed her the pattern, 4 corners slightly offset. She photographed it and logged it like any other trace. Then she hesitated, because the trace sounded ridiculous. She could already hear the DA's tone in court. So you're saying the safe was robbed by music, Detective? Aaron sensed her worry and leaned closer. We don't sell a story, he said. We build a chain of measurements. Maria nodded, because measurements didn't get laughed out of court. They searched the storage closet across the hall. Behind stacked chairs, Aaron found another clue, a square indentation in the carpet pile, newly flattened, and a faint smell of warm electronics, like a tired amplifier. Maria traced the closet to the stage crew's access route. It connected to the ballroom and the loading dock, a perfect path for equipment and for someone who knew schedules. The risk was simple and brutal. If Maria accused the wrong person, the contractor would sue everyone, the building would close ranks, and evidence would vanish. Meanwhile, the stolen objects would cross state lines. Insurance would pay, and nobody would keep hunting. Aaron asked to stand in the ballroom where the stage was. They walked the route with the manager trailing behind them. The ballroom smelled like champagne and last night's cologne. Tape marks still hugged the floor like pale scars. Aaron mapped the tape with his eyes. Stage was here, he said, following the rectangles. Subs likely here and here, he added, pointing near corners. Then he looked toward the safe room wall beyond the hallway. He stopped moving, like he hit an invisible wire. He pulled out a laser distance meter and started measuring. Maria watched him pace, shoot red dots, and mutter numbers. He asked for the ceiling height of both rooms. He asked about wall materials and any hollow spaces. He asked if the safe room door stayed open during setup. The manager said it was propped for convenience. Aaron exhaled like he'd found the missing piece. This only works in one geometry, he said softly. Maria asked what that meant without the math. It means the room becomes an instrument, Aaron replied. Sound bounces, stacks, and makes hotspots. Stand in the wrong spot and nothing happens. Stand in the right spot, and the safe gets hammered. Maria pictured invisible waves crossing like tides. She remembered hearing about echo spots in old theaters. Aaron called them standing waves, like frozen ripples. Where peaks overlap, pressure changes grow stronger. So the thief needed the safe exactly where it was, Maria said. And the speakers exactly where they placed them, Aaron answered. That's not randomness, Maria said, more confident now. That's planning, Aaron replied. They requested the contractor's crew list and call sheet. The manager stalled, then finally emailed a PDF. Maria scanned names and roles, looking for access. Most were general labor or lighting techs. One name popped like a flare. Dylan, audio technician, freelance, hired for the night. He had checked in early and left late. He had keys to the equipment cases and the cable trunk. Maria ran Dylan through records. Nothing major, nothing clean. A few unpaid tickets, a small civil dispute, no felonies. That was worse, because it meant he could look normal. Aaron asked for Dylan's soundcheck notes. They got a copy from the contractor's production manager. The notes listed weird test tones before the band arrived. Not unusual, the manager claimed. Audio techs do that. Aaron circled one frequency and went still again. That number, Aaron said, tapping the page, is a fingerprint. Maria asked how a frequency could be a fingerprint. Aaron explained it like he was talking to a neighbor. If you're hunting resonance, you sweep tones until something responds. Maria drove to the contractor's warehouse with a warrant request pending. She couldn't wait for paperwork to catch up. Aaron came with her, carrying his sensors like a quiet weapon. They parked beside stacked road cases and dented ramps. Inside, the warehouse hummed with forklifts and board music. Maria found Dylan near a workbench, coiling cables neatly. He looked up calmly, like he'd been expecting someone. He wore a laminate badge from last night's gala. Maria asked simple questions first. Where were the subs placed, and who approved the layout? Dylan said the ballroom corners were standard for coverage. He said he followed the writer and the room constraints. Aaron stepped forward and asked about tone sweeps. Dylan's eyes flicked once, barely, toward the exit. He recovered fast and gave an industry explanation. Room modes, Dylan said, shrugging. You always check them. Maria watched his hands as he spoke. They were steady, but his thumb rubbed a callus repeatedly. A nervous habit, not guilt, but a timer. She pushed harder. Did you enter the safe room? She asked, flat and direct. Dylan laughed lightly and called it above his pay grade. He said he never went beyond the ballroom hallway. Aaron didn't accuse him. Aaron offered a demonstration instead. He asked the warehouse manager for a spare office in 10 minutes. Maria expected refusal, but the manager loved drama. They were led into a small side room with cinder block walls. Aaron had brought something with him. A compact steel safe, not expensive, but real hardware. He called it the control safe. Like a lab sample, Maria realized his plan had a cost. If they tried this and failed, they'd look foolish. If they tried it and succeeded, they'd alert Dylan immediately. Either way, the thief would know they were close. Aaron placed the control safe against one wall. He set a speaker in the opposite corner. He stuck sensors to the safe body in the wall. Then he asked Dylan to stand exactly where he stood last night. Dylan smirked and played along, too relaxed. Maria saw the confidence and felt her pulse rise. Aaron started a low tone, barely audible at first. He swept upward slowly, like a diver rising to surface. Most tones did nothing. Then the safe latch inside clicked faintly, like a nervous insect. Maria froze, because she heard it too. Aaron held the frequency steady and increased volume slightly. The latch clicked again, stronger, then released. The safe handle shifted a fraction, without any hand touching it. Dylan's smirk vanished in one breath. Maria stepped between him and the door. Aaron stopped the tone and looked at Maria. That's the price, he said quietly. We just showed him it works. Maria kept her eyes on Dylan and answered anyway. Then we show him something else, she said. We show him he's out of time. Dylan didn't run. He did something worse. He started explaining, like a man selling professionalism. You can make a latch chatter, he said quickly. That doesn't prove I stole anything. Maria agreed, because court required more than a stunt. Aaron leaned toward the inventory list from the safe. He tapped the prototype microchip line with his pen. That's the only item with a serial number, he said, and it's the only one nobody can easily replace. Maria stared at the empty tray slots again. The watch was valuable, but not unique. The coin was rare, but coins had cousins. The microchip was different. It belonged to a startup renting office space upstairs. A research team had stored it in the building safe overnight. They called it a demo sample for investors next week. Maria called the founder immediately. The founder sounded exhausted and terrified. He said the chip was sealed in a tamper bag. He also said the bag had a tracking label number. Maria asked if anyone had scanned it recently. There was a pause. Then the founder said something that flipped the room. The label was scanned this morning, he whispered, by our receptionist when she picked it up. Maria looked at Aaron like he'd been punched. How could she scan it if it was stolen? She asked. Aaron's face tightened, because the answer was ugly. It wasn't stolen, Aaron said. It was swapped. Maria rushed upstairs to the startup office. She asked for the tamper bag and the chip container. The receptionist handed it over proudly, eager to help. The bag looked perfect at first glance. Sealed edges, correct label, no obvious tears or heat marks. The kind of evidence that would fool a busy team. Aaron asked for a scale. A kitchen scale appeared from the break room. He weighed the bag carefully and wrote down the number. Then he asked for last week's shipping receipt weight. The founder pulled up an email from the courier. It listed the package weight to the gram. Aaron compared the numbers and didn't blink. This is lighter, he said. Maria felt her throat go dry. A dummy, she said, almost to herself. Aaron nodded and asked for an X-ray scan if possible. The founder said they had a small inspection unit. The scan showed a similar shape inside, but the internal pattern was wrong. Too uniform. A placeholder block, not a complex chip package. A prop designed to pass a quick glance. Maria understood the smoke now. The watch and coin were theater. They were stolen to make the theft look greedy and simple. Insurance would focus on jewelry value and ignore the chip's meaning. Aaron looked back at Dylan's sound check note again. Swapping needs time, he said. Time inside the safe room, without triggering alarms. Resonance gave that time without breaking anything. Maria turned to Dylan. The watch and coin were your cover? She said. You wanted us chasing pawn shops. Dylan's jaw clenched, and his eyes finally showed fear, because a swapped prototype wasn't just theft. It was espionage with a very expensive client. Maria didn't cuff Dylan yet. She let him think the swap was still invisible. She told him they needed paperwork, and he could leave. Dylan walked out too calmly, like a man counting exits. Aaron followed Maria into the hallway and whispered fast. He'll deliver the real chip soon, he said. Swaps are only useful if the buyer confirms functionality. Maria nodded and called her team without raising her voice. They set the trap where Dylan felt safest, a rehearsal. Another event load in, another sound check, another busy corridor. The building hosted a charity banquet 2 nights later. Maria convinced management to use a control safe again. Same model, same latch style, same mounting bolts. Aaron placed it in a back office near the ballroom. He added a tiny accelerometer inside the safe door seam. The sensor wasn't magic. It just recorded vibration and time, like a diary. Aaron also hid a small camera aimed at the safe handle. Maria got a judge's signature and kept it tight. They let the contractor win the job again on purpose. Maria hated that part, but pressure made people predictable. Dylan arrived with the crew and acted bored. He didn't look at Maria once. Aaron watched the room with headphones on. He listened to the air, not the music. When Dylan began the tone sweep, Aaron's screen lit up, a clean peak at the same frequency as before. The control safe began to chatter on the recording. The latch clicked softly, then released, exactly on schedule. Dylan slipped away from the ballroom with a small case. Maria's team held back, letting the story finish itself. Dylan entered the back office and closed the door. The camera caught his hands moving with surgeon calm. He opened the safe and placed something inside the case. Then he removed a small sealed bag and checked its label. Maria stepped in as he turned toward the exit. 2 officers blocked the door behind her. Dylan froze because there was no improv left. Maria held up the tamper bag from the startup. You swapped this once, she said. Now you swapped it back for a buyer. Dylan tried to speak, but the words didn't line up. Aaron walked in behind Maria, carrying a portable scanner. He scanned the bag's embedded tag and read the hidden ID. It matched the founder's original record, not the dummies. That was the moment Dylan's face collapsed. Maria recovered the watch and coin from Dylan's road case. They were real, but they weren't the point anymore. The point was the chip, sealed, documented, and returned intact. Insurance couldn't bury this case in numbers now. At the station, Dylan asked one question through clenched teeth. How did you know? He said, staring at Aaron. Aaron shrugged like the answer was simple. Rooms have rules, he said, and you kept playing the same note. Maria signed the evidence transfer before sunrise. The founder picked up the real chip with shaking hands. The startup kept its investor demo, and Maria kept her case. Aaron went home, tired, satisfied, and slightly annoyed by humanity. The safe never opened itself again, but everyone in that building remembered the sound of silence.